Well, why is the U.S. bombing Somalia right now? Do we have the bandwidth for this? You may remember we are supporting the war in Gaza. We are supporting the war in Ukraine. We are also bombing Syria and now Somalia. In fact, U.S. African Command, that's AFRICOM, has admitted to at least 51 airstrikes in Somalia so far this year, with limited media coverage and vague civilian casualty reporting. That's not new. We always get this precision strike BS, but really we kill civilians all the time in the Middle East. So why are we doing this while we are also escalating a war with Russia, which the media is very confusing about? We don't know what to believe. President Trump yesterday said he did not ask Ukrainian President Zelensky to strike Moscow, contrary to what the Financial Times reported. Here's how the FT put it, according to people who had heard a conversation. Volodymyr, can you hit Moscow? Can you hit St. Petersburg too? Trump asked on the call, according to the people. Okay. Zelensky said, absolutely, we can if you give us the weapons. Okay, the people. I don't know how to take that one, but Trump says that's not true. Meanwhile, Political reports that Trump doesn't even believe that Ukraine can win the war against Russia. No serious person does. So what's going on here? Joining us to discuss is retired Colonel Douglas Macgregor. Douglas Macgregor joins us, and he is the one who knows these things about these types of strategies. So that's the person we go to. What do you make of this? Let's go. I don't know. Let's roll the dice. Where would you like to start? Ukraine, Somalia, Syria?
I'd like to state right up front that I am not the president's psychoanalyst. So please don't assume that I understand everything that's happening. Secondly, I got to go back to Max Blumenthal's segment and memorize that list he came up of: reptilian, shape-shifting, UFO chasing. Good Lord, whatever it was classic.
We need a shirt.
Saturday Night Live will get a hold of that and make millions from it. It was brilliant. Look, why are we doing what we're doing in Somalia? Somalia is this basket case that has had al-Shabaab and ISIS-related entities in it, as have several other African countries. Now, we've been booted out of most of Central and West Africa, where we had a substantial presence, but we're still in Somalia and presumably welcomed by the government, which is partially subsidized by us. And so we are at will to pick targets or to take nominations, I guess, from our friends in the Somali government regarding who out there deserves to die. Now, if you're going to ask me, does this make sense? Is this part of a coherent strategy? Is this making us any safer? I have no idea. It's one of these things, you do it because you can, and you're dealing with people that have no air defense weaponry, no capacity to detect you and fire at you. It really doesn't drain us in terms of weapons, because we're using precision-guided bombs, no doubt, but we're not using the more expensive missiles that are so vital to operations, as we saw in the 12-week war with Iran. So, that's the best answer I could give you on that one.
No, if I may,
sure.
You have been an advisor to Secretary of Defense in the past. So, can the U.S. defense, the U.S. military handle this many wars? Can any organization do this with any type of measurable success?
Well, we are at war with Iran. President Trump made us a co-belligerent, but at the moment, we're not shooting at them. And as far as I know, they're not shooting at us. In Ukraine, we are effectively a co-belligerent, and we're at war with Russia. But Russia has chosen to exercise restraint and not counterattacked us. So to answer your question, if these things were to grow hot tomorrow morning, you'd be right. We'd be very overstretched. In fact, a good friend of mine who's familiar with the missile inventories, who's still working for the Department of Defense, said we have about 8 days worth of missiles. I said, so what does that mean? He said, well, the conventional war, if we fight it against the Russians, Chinese, Iranians, doesn't matter anywhere, can last 8 days. After that, we have to go nuclear. I said, oh, you're kidding. He said, no, that's the truth. So to answer your question right now, yes, you can get away with a lot of things because it's tertiary, but it could rapidly become overwhelming overnight. And you're right to make that point, Natalie.
8 days.
8 days.
Until nuclear.
Yeah.
8 days to nuke. Okay.
I want to show you what happened over the past few hours in Damascus, Syria. Of course, we are providing bombs to Israel, of course, and coordinating with them. They're not doing anything on their own without direct involvement, I would think, from the United States.
I wouldn't bet on
downtown. Let me just show you some video here, Colonel, and I'm sure you've seen it. Downtown Damascus, Syria today, live on television, bombing of their defense industry, defense buildings. Watch. But don't worry, Benjamin Netanyahu says we're going after the bad guys. So, this is all good news. Colonel, what do you make of what's happening in Syria?
Well, there are a number of things going on. First, you have the Druze who've had their conflicts with the Sunni Muslim Arabs that are in the government now, the sort of rebranded ISIS/Al-Qaeda types. And Israel said that it was going to strike in support of the Druze, which is, as far as we're concerned, that's fine. Now they suddenly attacked the defense ministry. People are trying to figure out what's going on there. There are various theories because we have a very definite conflict underway between the Israelis and the Turks. It's not a hot conflict, it's a cold one. But some people are theorizing that striking that defense ministry was a message sent to Mr. Erdogan and the Turks. You've got this fragile pact, if you will, between the Turks and the Israelis, that they're going to sort of jointly administer what's left of the region. The Turks want control of most of Syria. The Israelis want some of the south. The Turks don't agree with that. The government in Damascus has now said they want northern Lebanon to be annexed to Syria. And I suspect that they're looking to eventually seize control of the area where the Russians sit. The Turks are in favor of this as long as it doesn't result in war with Russia. This is what happens when you unhinge the region. And we have been working tirelessly for years, certainly for at least 15, to bring down Assad, destroy that country, which we've done, and to bring a government to power that we thought we could control. Well, I don't think we can, despite Mr. Trump's visit and telling everyone that Mr. Gilani, the former Al-Qaeda/ISIS terrorist, is really a very fine young man and a very smart guy.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all. And the most important thing that you can do to protect your family today is to protect them from cyber criminals and online predators. I mean, it is disgusting, this new era that we're living in. And there's one app that does it all. It's called Bunker. That's right. Bunker is developed by experts with 25 years of experience catching criminals and fighting cybercrime. They created Bunker to protect their own family, and now they're sharing it with you. What do you get with a Bunker family plan? Well, you get a private messenger to share messages, photos, and files with your spouse, your children, connecting only people that you approve. No spam, no surveillance, no imposters ever. Password Manager, they also provide you to safeguard your family's online accounts, including financial, shopping, streaming, social media. And they've created a vault that will securely store everything for your family: wedding photos, baby pictures, special memories, financial information. You've got pictures of your IDs, birth certificates, passports, tax documents, wills, trust, insurance, all of it in that vault. So protect your entire family with a Bunker family plan, starting with as few as 2 people for just $9.99 per user per year. That's it. So visit bunker.life/redacted and use the code redacted for 25% off your family plan. It's also convenient, too. I mean, we'll put this up here on the screen. This was all happening inside of Israel. This bombing happened right as Netanyahu was sitting in trial. But it was convenient. The trial got adjourned right as the strikes were happening because, Netanyahu had to go to television and tell us all what was really going on. So it's very convenient. Every time he has to face the judiciary, he just bombs somebody.
Well, I'm surprised he hasn't jailed the judiciary as a matter of national security. That may yet happen. Remember, President Trump, at the insistence of the Likud and the Israel lobby, said, I stand 100% by Mr. Netanyahu. He's a great hero. You have no right to prosecute him. I'm with Netanyahu. So that's kept him in power. I suspect that that'll work for some time to come. But the point is that nothing is solved. There is no peace in sight, and there is no coherent strategy. The strategy right now is effectively we're going to do in the region whatever the Israel lobby wants us to do, whatever Mr. Netanyahu tells us to do, and eventually we're going to get back to war with Iran. And anybody who thinks otherwise is probably delusional.
So you really, I mean, because you heard all like the MAGA influencers that were making fun of people like us, saying, you know, we're sitting on the precipice of World War III, and they're like, look at all you panicans out there, you know, World War III didn't happen. We're not going to war with Iran. Trump is, you know, Jesus Christ. He's just walking on water. He carried out this attack, and now we're moving on from it. So you really believe, I mean, I believe it, but you really believe we are going to war with Iran?
Well, we're already at war. It's just that for the moment, there's a pause. That pause is going to end. Now, I predicted that it would probably last well into September. I could be wrong. It could go hot again, you know, by mid-August. But it struck me that it would take that long for us to replenish at least a substantial portion of the missile arsenal in Israel. And remember, we had all of these ships and aircraft sitting in the Middle East or at sea for a very long time. Our soldiers, sailors, airmen, and Marines were worn out. They needed a break badly. The fleet is overstretched, and they've run out of a lot of missiles. So those things have to be addressed, because we certainly don't want a war to restart unless we're present, because otherwise Israel is unable to defend itself when it comes under attack again by Iran. So everybody wants to know, okay, Doug, when's the war begin again? You know, I sort of thought September, but you've got all sorts of people out there gaming this, trying to figure out when it'll go. But I think logistics constrain us at least until the middle of September. Now, as far as World War III is concerned, it's very important that everybody understands something. The President Putin no longer pays any attention really to what President Trump says. Nobody in Moscow cares what he says, because he's not truthful. And they don't depend on us. They watched us lie to the Iranians and then effectively set them up for a surprise attack by the Israelis. We lied to them about the Minsk Accords. We've lied to them continually about everything. And Trump turns around and says, well, I'm unhappy, so I'm going to restart aid. Well, the $10 billion, I mean, probably 40, 50% that'll be stolen anyway, which is what we've seen in Ukraine before. But it's certainly not going to make any difference on the battlefield. So I would expect the Russians to press ahead until they've achieved their aims. They have a way to go yet. They're close. But I would not exclude the possibility that they cross the Dnieper River and they move directly on Kiev and eventually down to Odessa. Then I think they will be somewhat satisfied. And one of the things that I think President Putin is waiting for is change in the governments in Western Europe. They're all very fragile. Anyone who thinks that Merz is wildly popular in Germany needs his head examined. He's hanging on, but he could be gone very quickly. So could Macron and even Starmer. So I think they're trying to move cautiously. They don't want to provoke a wider war if they can avoid it, but they're not going to stop what they're doing, and they're not going to pay any attention to anything we say.
Right. The RT headline just a few moments ago: Trump arms Ukraine. Russia doesn't care. I mean, they really don't, right? And so Zelensky today says, well, can you reconsider those missiles? But what you just said is we kind of need them ourselves, first of all. And we're giving them breadcrumbs. But now Zelensky has withdrawn Ukraine from the landmark anti-mine treaty, and they've been violating it all along. And so it's like we are allowing them to continue to fight dirty instead of pushing them to a peace negotiation if they in fact had nothing, right? And so it's like they're fighting with brass knuckles, and you know, however else you might want to define fighting dirty. If we just took it all away, they would have to go to peace. But instead, we are facilitating just this horrific suffering, civilian by civilian. Is that how you see it?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And everything the Ukrainian government has accused the Russians of doing are things they themselves have done. The Russian performance in the field is remarkable. Not only has Putin been very, very cautious about the loss of Russian life, he's also instructed his generals, and they have largely done this more successfully than I think I could, and limited the collateral damage. Ukraine is now a what's the right word, a totalitarian state where goon squads run around and press people into service. They tried to press a Hungarian out in western Ukraine on Ukrainian soil into service, and he was killed. the Hungarians are up in arms over this. I think the Ukrainian state is falling apart. If it was ever that good to begin with, it's being held together basically by graft, and we've facilitated the graft. Well, that's just about as far as they're going to get. I don't think you'll ever get someone in Kiev to say, that's it, we give up, let's come to a solution. I think, in fact, he and his inner circle will climb into jets and fly off to parts unknown and leave the country to be destroyed, because that's effectively what they've done. They've led Ukraine down the path of destruction. I see no evidence that that's going to change. And by the way, people aren't paying attention to what's going on in the Pacific. In the Pacific, we're still trying to build up in a rather laughable way for a war with the Chinese. You know, and it's simply ludicrous nonsense thinking we're going to turn Taiwan into a Ukraine at sea. We have no chance whatsoever of success against the Chinese. They are a great continental power. They have all of the advantages of sitting on land with all of the missiles you could ever imagine. Whatever numbers of missiles you saw that the Iranians can shoot, there are infinitely more that will come from China. This is all nonsense. We really need to put an end to this, but there is no strategy and no will. And the president of the United States seems to be a puppet of whomever last spoke to him. He's surrounded by Israeli influencers. He's surrounded by lobbyists from the defense industry, advocates for the pharmaceuticals. Just go down the list. The man is not his own free agent. Now, could he be? Well, of course. But, you know, remember what Andrew Jackson said, one man with courage makes a majority. Well, it's time for him to have some courage, because none of this is in the interest of the American people at all. And the fact that he would continue to ignore the atrocity in Gaza is incomprehensible. It's unforgivable.
Yeah.
Colonel Douglas Macgregor, always great to see you. Thank you so much for your analysis and insights. As always, we appreciate it. Thanks, Colonel.
All right. Thank you both. Bye-bye.